Hello, I am Seamus Donahue of Eve University. In this video I will be explaining the Microwarp Drive Cloak trick. For brevity, I'm going to assume that you are already familiar with what a gate cloak is, with what a line time is and how to calculate it, that you're familiar with how cloaking devices work generally speaking, and how microwarp drives work. So the Microwarp Drive Cloak trick is the trick of using an improved cloaking device 2 and a microwarp drive to come up to a line speed while cloaked. And the way it works, you have the improved cloaking device 2. This must be the improved cloaking device 2 specifically. The prototype cripples your sublight velocity too much. So the prototype cripples you to 1/10, the improved only cripples you to 1/4. We need the 1/4. So you have the improved cloaking device 2, and you have a microwarp drive, the appropriate size microwarp drive for your type of ship. So 1 meganewton for frigates and destroyers, 10 meganewtons for cruisers, battlecruisers, industrials. You probably know this already. So a microwarp drive and improved cloaking device. So what we're going to do, we're going to jump through a gate. We're going to align to a target and then hit the cloaking device, which multiplies our max velocity by 1/4. We're then going to also hit the microwarp drive, which you only have a couple of seconds to do, which in my case is going to multiply by my max velocity by 7. So 1/4 times 7 is 7/4. So with the cloaking device and with the microwarp drive, my maximum velocity will go up. Alright. As the microwarp drive is about to run out on its first cycle, I cut the cloaking device and I activate the warp command. So again, the sequence of actions is jump, align, cloak, microwarp, wait out the 10-second cycle on the microwarp drive, cut the cloak, go to warp. Let me actually do that. So I'm going to jump, alright, I've jumped through. I'm going to pick a target to warp to. I will say the customs office over there. And align, cloak, microwarp. I will tap the microwarp again so it will shut down at the end of the cycle, but it should do that anyway if I'm cloaked. Cut the cloak, go to warp.
Warp drive active.
Now why does this work? In order to go to warp, you must be moving at 3/4 of your maximum velocity, whatever your maximum velocity happens to be at that moment, keeping in mind that the cloaking device and the microwarp drive are both affecting this quantity. I align first, because I got to break the gate cloak before I do anything else, and besides which I want to align to wherever it is that I want to head to. As soon as I align, that breaks the gate cloak, I activate the improved cloaking device. Activating the improved cloaking device is going to cut my max velocity to 1/4. But whenever you activate a cloaking device, you've got a grace period of a couple of seconds during which you can still activate an afterburner or microwarp drive. It's only a couple of seconds. If you wait too long before you try to activate the microwarp or afterburner, then the game's going to throw an error message at you. So the timing on it is very important. Align, cloak, microwarp. If you wait too long to cloak, you're going to get target locked by whatever gate camp you're trying to slip past. They're going to warp scramble you, and because you're locked, you can't cloak. So as soon as you break the gate cloak, you've also got to activate your improved cloaking device. But once you've activated the improved cloaking device, you've also got to then hit the microwarp drive. So those 3 steps have to happen in rapid succession. Align, cloak, microwarp. And let me demonstrate that again. So align, cloak, microwarp. So during that 10-second cycle of the microwarp drive, your velocity is climbing up to about 7/4 of your normal sublight, 7/4 to 6/4 of your normal sublight speed, depending on the mass of your ship. And so if, for example, I've got a 143.8 meter per second battleship. So with the microwarp drive and the cloaking device both running, my max velocity is about 250 meters per second. Your max velocity changes instantly, but your real velocity doesn't change instantly. It's going to change gradually in response to whatever factors are affecting it. So when the microwarp drive cuts out, you're also going to cut the cloaking device at the same time. So when I do this again, what you're going to see is that my ship will build up to about 250 meters per second. And then, you know what, let me talk about it while I'm doing it. Align, cloak, microwarp. My max velocity is 251.3. I'm going to cut the microwarp now. It'll stop at the end of the cycle. And cut the cloak, go to warp.
Warp drive active.
So once the microwarp drive cut out, I also cut the cloaking device so that my velocity didn't plummet too much. And that means I decloak with pretty good velocity. I'm well above the 100 meters per second that I need to go into warp. 105 meters per second in my case. It's a very tricky maneuver, and you should practice this a couple of dozen times in high security space before you start relying on it in a war or in low or null security. Right. I'm going to do this one more time. And again, the sequence of actions is jump, you wait for the grid to load on the other side. Align, cloak, microwarp. Rapid succession. Wait out the 10 seconds. While you're waiting out the 10 seconds, you may as well tell the microwarp drive to shut down. Let me start over. Jump, wait for the grid to load. Align, cloak, microwarp. Cut the microwarp, but it's not going to stop until the end of its cycle. Once the cycle is about to end, decloak, warp. So, jump, wait for the grid to load. Select a destination. Align, cloak, microwarp. And I'm using keyboard shortcuts. Cut the microwarp, and you're going to wait out the rest of the 10-second timer. Cut the cloak, go to warp.
Warp drive active.
Alright. If you wait too long to align, your gate cloak is going to drop after 60 seconds. You're going to get locked and scrambled. If you wait too long to cloak after breaking your gate cloak, you're going to get locked and scrambled. If you wait too long to hit your microwarp drive after you cloak, you won't be able to activate the microwarp drive. You're going to be at a crippled velocity. Most likely, somebody in the gate camp is going to fly within 2 kilometers of you because they saw where you were. They know where you were last seen, and then they're going to force you to decloak once they're within 2 kilometers. Then they lock and scramble you. Or if you drop the cloaking device on your own, you're going to have to come back up to speed. Once you're cloaked and microwarping, if you wait too long to drop the cloaking device, after the microwarp drive cycle runs out, your speed's going to go from really high to really low. And if you wait too long to decloak, you're going to be well below your normal align speed. And obviously, if you wait too long to go to warp after you cut your cloaking device, you're going to get locked and scrambled. The timing is tricky. But once you have the timing, it works most of the time. You are, however, in trouble if you if you emerge from a wormhole or stargate within 2 kilometers of something else. You might have problems in that case, because you can't cloak. But as long as you didn't emerge from the gate within 2 kilometers of somebody else, you should be fine. In the meantime, I hope this helps, and thank you for watching.